All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are across the known world. And welcome to another episode of The Crown Between Two Roses. Apologies that we've had a bit of a change of plans, and this is now a recorded rather than a live stream, but hopefully you have a chance to watch it later. And if you still have questions, throw them through, and I'm sure we'll all be happy to get them answered through the comments. So I'm Duchess Englin. Tonight, I would like to welcome our guests, Master Baron Hrolf. Should have practiced this one first. Hrolfsen and Honourable Baron Gershom of Ravensdale. Oh goodness! So these are the first and second Barons of Ynys Fawr. And I'd also like to introduce my co-host, Ynys Fawr born and raised Duchess Liadan Ingen Faraday. So, as we like to start these episodes, I'd like to acknowledge that we come here together in the spirit of fellowship, deepening of our skills, sharing of our knowledge, and a shared interest in the search to find truth through experimental archaeology and historical inquiry. It is in this context that I, Englin, on behalf of my kingdom, acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands upon which we gather. We recognise their continuing connection to land and culture, and we pay our respects to their elders past, present, and emerging, and the elders from other communities who may be here today. So this is super exciting. Ynys Fawr's 30th birthday is coming up. So Lord Orlando has taken the opportunity to get into a little bit of history and get to know Ynys Fawr a little bit better as they gear up to party. So it would be great if you two lovely gentlemen would like to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about yourselves and your roles within Ynys Fawr since the beginning.
Is the first and fifth Baron?
I'm Baron Hrolf Olsen. Well, I've been in the SCA, Madeline and myself and Rowan and a few others, we started the SCA in Australia. And so 43 plus years. It's scary when you look back at it that way. We moved from Roney down to Cooma, and we started Kirithikale. I went and dug out some people at a gaming thing in Canberra and got Politicopolis going. We went across and helped them found Inelgard. And then we moved down here. And so back when rocks were soft, people were handing out computer games to various personalities and saying, this is that person. So Maddie and I got colonisation. So when we moved down to Tasmania, it was natural for us to start a group. And so we did. And yeah, we recruited all sorts of people, some of whom we'd known before. Liadan's father, for instance, has an army number that's 50 away from mine. So yes, that's basically the short version of my my history. I was one of the first Pelicans of Lockhart. I basically got it for politics, I suppose. I engineered us actually joining America and becoming part of the SCA instead of being the SCMA. Invented the concept of a crown principality and got it past the board. And had a lot of fun as on the Grand Council, of which I ended up as the chair. And I think I'm the only person from Lockhart to actually serve at a board level, at that level still. And as a matter of fact, well, at one stage there, I had that office, which was corporate. Then I had another one for Lockhart. Then I had another one for the Barony, and I had another one for the college. And they're all different.
Just offices all the way down. The good old days when
Yeah,
everyone had to have like 5 offices.
When everyone had 5 offices. I've usually seen the first 6 months of rowing. That was hilarious. Do you realise I never authorised as a fighter ever? Because what happened is that someone had to authorise everyone else. And so I got my marshal's inspection over the phone from America, and I authorised everyone else. And I couldn't have someone I'd authorised me. So I just got a card. And so I never actually authorised as a fighter until I let it lapse. And when we had the event at Wirksworth and was fighting in the Principality, I actually said I better actually authorise. Everyone just looked at me.
That was like well into the 90s.
Yeah, that was in the 90s.
Yeah, that wouldn't fly today. No way.
It was a different time back then.
It was a different, rocks were soft.
Yeah.
To get your driver's license, you just had to like sit in the car and turn it on with a policeman like watching. That was about it. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. How does it feel seeing how much the SCA has grown within Lockhart from your humble beginnings of just a few of you interested in history?
Okay, the very first Little Rock War, right? By the way, Rowaney Festival datings are one out, because the very first event that was held at that site was not a Rowaney Festival. The second event that was there, all the publicity said announcing the Rowaney Festival. So every festival T-shirt is out by 1 year.
There's a Rowaney Festival 0.
Yeah, anyway, very first Little Rock War. We were sitting there, and this is the war, the very first one. We had the 2 metal helmets and the 4 motorbike helmets. And I can't remember who it was. Someone said to me, just think, one day, maybe we'll have 20 fighters. Because we were ecstatic over the fact we had 6 people fighting.
Yeah.
We still say that down here. One day
one day we'll have 20 fighters. We did at one stage.
We always had 2 baronies for a while.
Yes,
it was getting pretty big.
We did, and then everyone went up to the North Island. Yeah. Looks hard at the person in the top of the screen.
I'm sure she'll be back soon enough.
We lost in 1 year. We lost well over half our membership going to the North Island, and that was hard.
Yeah.
Well, mind you, we provided how many barons and baronesses and seneschals? We provided seneschal for coplas, for Stormholds.
The B&B Stormhold.
B&B Stormholds.
Yeah.
Where else? We did some other seneschals as well.
Ilgard?
Can't remember. Anyway, I'd have to go and look at it all.
Well, we'll get into just how prolific you guys are soon. Gersh, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Greetings, I'm Baron Gershom of Ravensdale. So I started in the week between Christmas and New Year in 1992. So I started about 6 months before the barony became a barony. So I started in the Shire, but I was just late enough to miss out on being on the cool scroll. Unlike Her Grace here, who managed to make it into the corner there. I'm so jealous. But I got to be there at the start. So I came along about a year before so I started when I was 17. So I saw a demo with, I think, Hrolf and Lord Richard fighting in whatever was one step up from like motorbike helmets.
They were well above motorcycle helmets, thank you.
In fact, I think I got to wear the armour years later. And so I started as a 17-year-old and with no beard. And within 4 years, so
he was so young and fresh faced.
Yeah. I was on the first baronial guard as one of Hrolf's engineers, one of the three there. So I got a front row seat of the investiture. I got to hold the pike every now and then, and I had a cool apron that I had to make dirty. And then 4 years later, I stepped up with Miriam as the Baron of Ynys Fawr. I think I might have been the youngest Baron maybe ever, at least in Lockhart. I was 21, I think, when I stepped up. Maybe, well, 97, wasn't it?
Yeah, be about that.
I was 22 and a bit, yeah. So I was pretty young. And we ruled for 7 years. It was tough. It was really good, and I really enjoyed it. And we had some ups and downs. We took over an amazing barony that Hrolf and Madeline had given us, and then we were lucky enough to still have them around, which is sometimes pretty rare. You know, once you take over a barony, the old baron and baroness are like so tired they kind of just disappear, like I did. So yeah, we had this awesome barony. We made it bigger and better. Yeah, then almost everyone left, and we had some we sort of contracted a bit, but then we handed it over to some other people, and there was a few reigns that was a bit rough, and then Hrolf took over again. So in my time, I didn't do anything nearly as illustrious as His Excellency over here, but I did create a new type of subgroup in the northwest of the state. We had a small core of people who wanted to get started in like Latrobe. So it's about an hour from where the other northern group was in Launceston. And so I came up with the idea of a ward where we picked a warden that was voted by the people. And so they could have a name and get the beginnings of a device and have a bit of an identity. But not all of the paperwork and all of the offices and the accounts and all that kind of stuff. Later on, so we had it, and then once we stepped down, it sort of disappeared once the people moved. But later on, that similar idea was taken up as the Hamlet. But I'm not claiming that I created Hamlet. But if someone wants to say that, they can. It's all right. We had quite a few groups during our reign. I think for a while we had 5 groups on the island. So we had the barony, we had a canton in Hobart, a canton in Kingston, which is about 15 minutes south of Hobart, a canton in Launceston, which is about 2 hours north of Hobart, and the college plus the ward, about an hour from Launceston.
You have to remember that Ynys Fawr has some unusual problems. It's over 5 hours from our furthest south person to our furthest north. Over 5 hours drive within the barony.
And that's Tasmanian hours as well.
Yeah, that's just
like 2 hours is an overnight trip, so 5 hours is like a trek.
That's pretty impressive.
And at one stage we did have someone.
It's pretty spread out.
Yeah, and we do occasionally have someone down on Ynys Rue, down on the ice. And at one stage we had someone fairly often in King Island.
Wow, cool.
That's why we claim up to the high water mark of Bass Strait.
Yeah, so we can go to like St Kilda Beach, and as long as it's like low tide.
Low tide. We own that
between the water and the high tide mark, we're still in Ynys Fawr.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's nice to be home. Just
I was very careful with the wording of our petition as to how Ynys Fawr was constituted.
Yeah.
Which is why we own most of Antarctica.
Yeah, so we ruled the biggest barony probably on the planet. Yeah.
I think it is.
Good job.
By geographical location,
Yeah.
But you see, you can't split postcodes. And Antarctica shares the postcode with Kingston, and we lived in Kingston.
Even without Antarctica, it's still a pretty big barony just because we claim the whole of Tasmania. And even if you don't include like the Northern Islands, just the actual main island is still pretty huge. And right now we have people in like Devonport and Latrobe, and down in Huonville. So there's probably like a 4 or 5 hour-ish drive.
It is 5 hours.
Yeah, it's about 5 hours between everyone. There's a new sort of subgroup starting up in
Launceston. I think there's someone interested up that's even going to extend it further. They're further west than Devonport.
Yeah, we'll have people in Strawn, like Copple Creek soon. Too big.
Oh gosh. It's really cool that like with the size that Ynys Fawr is and all the little kind of um different areas that aren't as connected as you might find around Rowaney and Palit, that like you can maintain membership and have people interested and engaged. It's very cool. I know that it can be very difficult for groups to keep the small groups going and motivated. And I've no doubt that you've had your fair share of challenges there as well. But the fact that
Well, Ynys
there
Fawr
are
itself
so
is
many
like
groups is
cut
cool.
off. And so because Ynys Fawr itself is sort of cut off from the rest of the world, then the groups inside Ynys Fawr are sometimes like, they're the Ynys Fawrs of Ynys Fawr.
I mean, back many years ago, it was what we went 2.5 years without a visit from royalty. It's very isolation's a very interesting challenge.
Yeah.
Then you spend half that court giving out ward of arms.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no
I
doubt.
wonder what sort of impact that has on the culture of the group when you're quite insulated, because you end up coming up with all of your own traditions without the same amount of, I guess, sort of infiltration from other groups. And I've certainly noticed visiting as Crown and as a regular person, like it's a really special group to visit with a really cool vibe to it.
Mm.
Yeah, we have the Hammer of State, which is like a granite hammer.
Dolomite.
I want to come back to the hammer. I've got a question about the hammer, but we'll come back to that.
No spoilers.
But to a great extent, because Maddie and I are very old school West Kingdom, we set things up pretty much like old school West Kingdom. And putting my sociologist hat on, immigrant communities tend to maintain the traditions, those that are isolated from the mainstream. So we've probably maintained a lot of the old traditions of the SCA a lot longer than the rest of the SCA has. The SCA has moved on in many ways, but we still have a lot of the old. Yeah. I mean, I did my thesis on the SCA. It founded a whole new branch of sociology. It's been cited over 300 times. Try that for a normal
Wow.
It still astounds me when I get notifications saying you've been cited again. Do
you get royalties every time you
No, I wish I did. It'd be lovely if I got royalties on the thesis. But the thing is, I'd love to throw it out and rewrite it. Much.
I guess the SCA evolved so quickly, and with particularly in the last few years after COVID, like there's been massive changes with how we engage online and different kind of cultural things coming in. So yeah, maybe it's time for thesis number 2.
Well, even with COVID, we were protected behind our moat, and so for most of COVID, like I remember reading online, people, when like a big movie would come out, and you'd see people complaining like, "Oh, I wish I could see it like, in the big screen." And I'm sitting in a theater with like 200 people, and we're all like vaccinated, and the gates are shut, the drawbridge is up,
and Tasmania life went as normal. The clubs were open.
Yeah, and then they eventually opened up again. Almost everyone got COVID, but we had a good like couple of years there but I also still got the benefits of like working in the government and getting to work from home and stuff, but like not needing to particularly, but just like chilling at home was great. Yeah, it was the best of both worlds.
Yes, I don't have time to rewrite a thesis now. I'm too busy writing books.
So the isolation, it does have its benefits occasionally.
Yeah, that's true. I'm just going to jump over to Duchess Liadan quickly. You want to give us a little bit of background with your connection to Ynys Fawr?
Yeah, sure. So my parents became friends with Hrolf and Maddie when I was very little. Yeah, so I'm guessing probably like a toddler. So there's a picture of us with a cookie in our mouth dragging dolls at about 2 years old on the founding scroll. And I've got like some really great memories from that time. So I was trying to think of like just a couple of them, but one would be going to Sitch and Bitch at Hrolf and Maddie's house as kids and being put to sleep in the attic at, I don't know, 10 o'clock, whatever it is, and, being carried out at 3 a.m. and that being a pretty standard sort of Saturday night, and just like reflecting on like what a cool like group it is that you can get together every week and have that sort of social occasion. I remember, I think like after feast, like, if you were the family that was a bit short on money that week, you got to take the leftover food with you. And like, as an adult now, like that's actually a pretty important thing to like support vulnerable people in the community. As like a fighter memory, I remember, I don't even know who the woman was, but being at a tournament and seeing this amazing woman with like a mane of blonde hair and like a white linen shirt getting armored up and thinking, oh my God, who is this person? I want to be like that when I grow up.
That would have been Rhiannon, yep.
Yeah, and then as an adult, coming back to the Barony a couple of years ago and fighting in the tournament with Sir Oz and Sir Wolfgar and a bunch of other people and winning it and thinking like, this is just the most amazing full circle to be like a child in the Barony, idolizing these female fighters and then being able to come back as a female knight and win the tournament. I thought that was just so cool. And yeah, coming down as an adult, like I wish I could come to the anniversary event that's coming up in 2 weeks, but I'll be overseas, unfortunately. Yeah, Ynys Fawr has always held like a really special spot in my heart for some of those reasons.
I got the t-shirt for the event. That's why I'm not in garb today. So I thought I'd let Rob do the fancy garb and his awards and stuff. But yes, no, you can get that on Redbubble.
You have a belt on, it's fine.
Yeah. So I've still got my belt. So like I've got my attempt at
I'm pretty sure jeans and event t-shirts count as garb these days.
Yeah.
I was saying we're going to promo the event, but I think it's sold out now. So
yeah,
if you haven't got tickets, sorry.
So I wonder, if you both have any of those sort of like foundational memories that you attach to the Barony and the sort of culture that you've created.
Yeah, mine. When I first started, my first thing that I came along to with Master Tapper, was a social night at Hrolf's house, Hrolf and Maddie's house down in Kingston, and just going along to those and having like this house full of people who were like, like in one room there'd be people like making some garb or like sewing and stuff, and then in another room there'd be some people talking about like heraldry and all these books to like look up names and stuff, and that's where I got my name. So I was in a group of friends and we ended up being called the Bell Ringers. And so I'm flicking through one of Hrolf's books and I found a name, Gershom, it meant bell ringer. I'm like, boom, done. I later found out that Gershom is in the Bible as a bell ringer because he's like, every other book he's called like the diseased one or the exiled one. And that's why he's like ringing your bell. But, it means that there's not many Gershoms or Gershas, so that's kind of cool. But we'd go out the backyard and fight, and that's where I learned to fight. And there'd be people armoring, and just that sort of communal, that we've kind of lost over the years. Like I have really fond memories from sort of those times. And I've just moved house, and I'm planning on having some social nights again. See if we can, because it's a good house for it.
We're looking at once we get the house finished, which should be in the foreseeable future, we're going to be opening up the house, the library for every now and then, and so that people can come along and just do the research. And we
could do that
have
30 months or something.
Over 1,000 history books, and they're Dewey Decimalised. Well, the library's Dewey Decimalised, but the history books are there.
It's an amazing resource.
Yeah, I mean, someone asked a question about they wanted an Italian name, so I had to go and look in my books from Deruta, because Marjorie got all these books from Deruta that were. So I have the census rolls from Deruta in full. So great resource. Things like that are amazing.
Yeah, I got my device from flicking through those books, looking for ravens, bells, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Nice. So Gershom, so we were just talking about your name, but we understand you have a bit of an alter ego. So is it Baron Teflon? Did you want to tell us about that?
So Baron Teflon, not so much like a alter ego for a feast or anything, but as Baron, you sometimes have to give bad news or tell people no, or whip people up into getting them to do stuff that maybe they don't want to do. And I had a bit of a knack of being able to tell people pretty bluntly, yes or no or whatever, but nothing would kind of stick to me. But if Miriam as Baroness kind of just looked the wrong way at people, like there'd be a rumor that she hated them or something, whereas I could just tell them to their face.
Things slid off him.
Yeah, I could just tell them to their face, like, stop being an idiot, just, leave us alone, or just, something like that, and they go away sort of happy. Yeah,
an enviable attribute. It just things just.
I worked in call centers, so I think maybe some of those skills, like you don't say you're sorry, you just say that I'm sorry you feel that way. Those kind of stuff. It's useful skills, but occasionally I'd have to turn the Teflon shield like right up to stun to get rid of annoying people occasionally, because I was also pretty good at getting rid of like weird clingy people at demos. I remember one of them, this guy was talking endlessly about it was Napoleon at the Battle of Hastings, and he wouldn't stop going on about how pivotal Napoleon's forces were at the Battle of Hastings in 1066, and we just couldn't get him rid of him from the demo. And so as I was sort of like talking to him, nodding, I noticed that the very shiny coronets that we had was like glinting on his chest, and so I sort of leaned up a little bit like this, so it was then glinting in his eye because they're sort of a bit concave at the top. And I used that a couple of times. And I just sort of like leave after a while. But it's handy when you have to give bad news or do stuff.
So do you still have that skill? Like, are you going to be the kind of go-to guy whenever anyone has problems? Like, go see Gersh.
It does come in handy for a variety of stuff. Both in the SCA work. You get people who sort of have like crazy ideas, but you want them to maintain that enthusiasm, but you don't want them to, start playing blues music because it sounds a bit old or something at a feast or something like that. So it's a useful skill to have, but it's not something you can really cultivate. You're going to just have to be born with it. I'm sorry.
So I'm guessing
maybe I was just like cooking with a Teflon pan and I was hit by lightning and that's how I became Baron Teflon.
Just lucky.
Have you ever had to apply some of those Teflon skills to the relationship with Stormhold? I understand there's been some rivalry over the years.
Yeah, well, when we stepped up, either just before us or no, it must have been just before us was Kelly and Lillian, who came from here, and so we talked to them beforehand, like, oh, we should, we both just stepped up as like B&B. We should sort of maybe start a war or something like that, like to sort of get our populace like going. So they sent over some peppercorns as a gift with a messenger that said how expensive peppercorns were, and so when I got them, like as one of my first things as Baron, I said like, yeah, these are just peppercorns. Like we have them growing on trees just out here. Like, how dare they just send me some spices? Like, I've stepped up as Baron of one of the biggest baronies, in the known world, and how dare they? And declared war on them. And then I had some people in our populace come and talk to me saying like, you can't just throw away, like peppercorns really were expensive in the medieval period. Like you can't just like throw away their stuff in their face like that. It was all planned ahead. So I don't think we never actually fought the war.
No.
But it was just all
unlike Southron Guard.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to the next royal visit. I have actually I'm not sure what it counts as. Is it a treaty or something? Anyway, I belong to both Southron Guard and Ynys Fawr as a result of being a war token. And yes, so I have a document that's going to be
And you proclaims me Admiral of the Southern Seas.
I'm Admiral of the Southern Seas for my defence of Antarctica. Because I've defended it twice now at the board level from other kingdoms trying to poach it.
Those damn Canadians.
No, Meridies and Trimaris are the two kingdoms that have tried to steal it.
Are they trying to make it Quadmaris?
Well, I have seen Queen Catherine calling up those who have letters of marque and all sorts of stuff. So it'd be interesting to see.
Well, I haven't been asked for anything, so
No, they put the call out. You should go.
But I don't actually own any ships. I don't claim it. Yes, they do. They'll told to provide them.
Got our link pad there.
So, Rolf, when you first started up Ynys Fawr, was there kind of ideas or plans that you had for the group that you've seen come about and evolve? And is there something that you were hoping to see and that you can look back and are proud of as part, like that it has become part of Ynys Fawr? Yeah, is there something that you can
I just wanted it to grow and be there. It would have been nice if one day we got to be, I'd like to still like to see Lockhart have principalities. I think we should have gone to broken up into principalities before we became a kingdom to give people a stepping stone. That's one of the reasons we have difficulty finding people to take kingdom offices, is that they don't feel trained well enough to take on such serious responsibility. And the principality provides that stepping stone, rather than going straight from baronial to kingdom. I'm too busy now to get into the politics and do those sorts of things. I end up working at sort of 72-hour week, working on my own stuff. And I mean, I'll go home and do some more work tonight. I'm halfway through editing a story. Yeah, I would like to. There's things I'd like to have seen happen that haven't. But the fact that Ynys Fawr's still here, that we're doing our 30th year, that we've provided so much to the kingdom and to the other baronies, that's to be proud of. When you look at the life cycle of groups, remember I said I was a sociologist, I've actually looked at the life cycle of groups, and so we're actually doing pretty well, given our location, given the drains upon the population.
We're expanding again as well. In the last few years, we're going through our second golden age of Ynys Fawr.
Yeah.
Finally getting new people and stuff. And
we're starting to expand again.
People.
This is good. I mean, we went to, well, Maddie was away at her looking after her father's funeral. There was an event up north, and we had 20-odd people there.
I think we got 30.
Yeah, and that was a good, healthy event. It was a really enjoyable event, and that was in Perth, the real Perth, by the way, not the one in Western Australia. This one's the one that's older.
Also not the one in Scotland.
Also not the one in Scotland, which doesn't count because it's in the wrong hemisphere.
Yeah.
But at any rate, so yeah, the fact that was a good, well catered, enjoyable event with so many people at it, that was something to be proud of.
With
Absolutely.
Fighting.
With fighting, yes, and archery, lots of archery.
Yeah.
Huge amounts of archery.
That's so good. Is there a tradition that you might have established that you love to see? And Gersh, this question for you as well. Is there a particular Ynys Fawr tradition?
I want to bring back, once we get the house all thinged and get all these other things out of the way, I want to do another camel feast. We've had...
Tell me more.
We used to do a camel feast each year. If you came to the camel feast, you agreed to entertain.
Oh.
It was a Middle Eastern.
It was a Middle Eastern feast.
The food's always so good as well.
And you didn't have to entertain on your own. You could do it with a group, and the level of entertainment required was very low.
Wasn't always that entertaining.
Good.
Right, we've been really low.
It makes it accessible. That's good. We want this.
Yes, yeah. Yes, we won't talk about. Is it Elfin that was doing the Elfin, many times king of Drakenwald.
Mm-hmm.
He has a long association with down here as well. Anyway, at one stage he was doing this juggling thing where it's just moving the balls around like this. with the balls in his hand still. It's a low bar. It was very entertaining though.
I upped it slightly by doing 3-ball juggling very briefly.
Yeah.
Well, they actually leave my hands.
We've had everything from storytellers to puppeteers to belly dancers to jugglers to.
It's a good one. The other tradition I like that we didn't start with, when people come to their first event.
Oh, yes.
So when people travel from the mainland or from anywhere else.
The North Island, it's not the mainland.
Oh, yeah, so Ynys Fawr is for the big island. So I guess the other island, I don't know what the other one's called. In fact, do the other islands, the other islands of the kingdom don't have names, do they?
Yeah, Ynys Fawr, the Red Island.
The Red Island, and then there's the Northwest Island, and then there's Southwest Island. There's a Northeast Island and a Southeast Island as well. But I don't know if they have names.
We haven't given them names.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, if someone travels from overseas, which is everywhere, they get a shell, a scallop shell, as a token. And some people have amassed like quite a few of them. And then also separately later, people get a little token from the Baron and Baroness when it's their first event, to sort of.
Who brought that one in?
I think it might be the current Arabella and David. It's definitely their coins.
Yeah, it's their coins that are being used now.
It might have been the previous.
Can't remember who brought that in, but it's a nice one.
Yeah, it's a fairly recent one.
And the newcomers love it.
Yeah. Which is surprising because some of the newcomers, like half of them must be introverts, but they still enjoy it. Particularly making a big deal about people traveling over is good because, I mean, generally we make a big deal when someone comes over anyway. Like if anyone comes to visit, which you all should, we'll make a big deal about you. We'll take you out for dinner or, have a feast, if we have enough time for it and all that kind of stuff. So, or if we have teachers come over, we've had a few teachers. Tully's organised some teachers, or Lord Erlander sitting off camera there, has done a great job, bringing people into the barony as well. So good work.
Yeah, we used to people coming wandering around and visiting our house. I mean, that used to even happen in Kirithiko, Yang the Nauseating, for instance. Master Yang came to our place and we showed him a kangaroo in the back paddock. He's the science fiction writer Bob Asprin. But so yes.
So yeah, even if you just come down to visit Tasmania,
we like visitors.
It's true, and
we take you on tours.
And I know from my experience that like Ynys Fawr and the membership of Ynys Fawr are always so welcoming and like hospitable, and like the community, like you feel welcome when you come in, and there's a community. You can see how everyone looks after each other and gets along, and it's nice. Like you don't feel like you're a visitor. You feel like you're part of the group once you're there. So how do you think that Ynys Fawr as a group has been able to cultivate that culture?
I think part of it's just being small and isolated. Even at our biggest, everyone knew everyone. For a while, we almost had two baronies, like one in Hobart or in the south and one in the north. And but even then, the membership was probably like less than 70 members, and maybe 100 sort of people, all up who might come along to stuff. And it's probably getting close to that again now. So everyone knows everyone. There's no big households. Like we do have some households, but there's no big sort of mega households that are almost like baronies themselves that are so big that they've got enough stuff to do by themselves that they don't necessarily have to interact. I mean, full disclosure, I am technically one of the crappiest squires of Sir Alpha, probably the oldest, slackest squire, but I am technically part of that still. But yeah, we don't have any of those really big households that are active like that down here. I mean, we just don't have the people in general. But I think that then that enables the closeness. And even though it is like a 5-day trek to get up to Launceston, in that 2 hours of driving, we still get a lot of travel backwards and forwards. Most people have like some family up there, or or just for an event. It's close enough that you can drive up for the event and then drive back that night and come back home. And so everyone's close, and I think that's sort of the most of that sort of that isolation and sort of breeds that sort of closeness.
I agree. Also, when we set things up, we didn't deliberately set up a large household, and so it's never been part of our culture down here. It's always been a case of everyone's part of it. I mean,
we did have some bigger households during our reign. We had sort of like bigger households, and we had 3 cantons for a while, and lots of these subgroups, and it started to become a little bit cliquey. And so
they do.
Yeah, and so we instituted, I can't remember what the actual feast was called, but it was just called like We Love the Barony Day, where we made sure that once a year there was like a sort of a Ynys Fawr focused feast, where everyone wore Ynys Fawr colours and sort of celebrated Ynys Fawrdness, and that was sort of our big one that we'd do, like sort of major changeovers and things like that as well. And it was an overnight event as well to sort of get everyone together, to make sure that we sort of foster that sort of that closeness even when we were starting to sort of like split up a bit.
And when you do things, well, the fact that we've until recently, and they decided to redevelop it and tear down our hall, the fact that we had our own hall really helps with the social cohesion of the barony.
It was big enough that we could store everything. You could go there pretty well whenever you wanted. You could do fighter practice inside. You could do sewing, cooking. We'd hold feasts there. It was it
added to the social cohesion. And we're this is one of the reasons, as I said, we're looking at reopening our house, is to help that social cohesion. I mean, even though we're spread out all over the place, if you stand on our veranda, you can see about a third of the people in the south of the barony. There's one person's house, there's another, there's the barons, there's the, mind you, we're on a hill in Lutana, so it makes it easy.
It does help.
It helps.
Yeah.
But Hobart's a strange geography, and that actually helps our cohesion, is that everyone is just around the corner. You run into members of the barony in the shops.
And Tasmania, separately from Ynys Fawr, is also, it's the same kind of thing with the same, we're separated from the rest of the world, and from, the mainland Australia, and, everyone's sort of like, we're all related to each other. So
it's 2 degrees of separation here. It's not 5.
Yeah.
You can't say anything negative about anyone.
Yeah, you can't,
because they know someone that and it will get back.
Yeah, if you mention something at work, like it'll, their cousin overhears it, it gets back to them like almost instantly. Like,
yeah. So talking about that great hall that you had, I remember coming down for a big feast when Hulla and Ulfus were crowned, and it was Sir Oz and Jackie catered the most amazing, elaborate feast, and there was a lot of subtleties in there. So like the really big ships, for example. And I think really fancy food and that sort of those subtleties is something that I associate with Ynys Fawr particularly. Can you tell us a little bit about sort of how that came to be, or any really memorable moments for you attached to that sort of high feasting?
We've always liked our food. I've always cooked, and it's always been.
I've always eaten. Yeah.
You need both.
I mean, even for my books, I do recipes, right? As part of Patreon, I put out a new recipe every month. People have won awards with my recipes, which still astounds me, but that's beside the point. We've always had a culture of cooking and eating, and it's a fun culture to have. Sully's patting his stomach. Yeah, we've all got that problem. we have the figures of dukes without the awards.
We're Baron sized.
Yeah, we're Baron sized.
I'm not sure what Tully's excuse is.
Tully's working.
He's working on it. Yeah.
You're inspirational.
So that's just something we've always had. I mean, if you look at some of the top brewers and things and so on in Lockhart, Master Anto, for instance, right? He started off in Ynys Fawr. And my God, does he produce some nice stuff. Tappy, when he wants to, can produce some nice stuff too.
Yeah. The food culture just in general down here is
because we're in Tasmania. This is the food culture.
Yeah.
You know,
it's true.
We had one visiting royalty. We said, "Do you mind if we are we allowed to serve venison?" And I can't even remember who it was. And he said, "Oh, yes. Why? Have you got venison?" I said, "Well, we're planning on it for 5 courses." And, you know, we
smoked venison.
Oh, it was one of the ones out at where we're doing the 30th year. And we had everything from venison snags for breakfast, you know, to venison pie and roast venison. It was, you know, this is Tasmania. Of course, we have venison.
Yeah.
You know, we serve, which was the feast where we ended up with too much salmon.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so
good. My God, we have too much salmon?
Was it Taffy's mum made the salmon? Yeah. She smoked these like 3.
Oh, yes. No, it was more than 3.
Well, there were 3 on the table. I think there was some out in the kitchen, but they were like massive, like full on, like fisherman size. Like you can't even see because the camera's not wide enough. But pretend it's like 5 times that. And they were like, and they were so buttery, and they're on these massive platters, and it was a pretty small feast. It was like a newcomer's feast.
Yeah.
And like in the end, I was so full, but you're just like scooping up like handfuls of this stuff.
We just had too much salmon. We couldn't eat, but salmon went home.
Giving it away, all the smoked salmon and stuff. Yeah.
Amazing.
We've had quail and we grow truffles down here. We grow wasabi, but we haven't had any wasabi yet. But one day maybe. But
someone needs to do a Japanese feast. He says, looking sideways.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Hint, hint, anyone listening?
That culture.
Oh, I've eaten a lot of Japanese food and been
Englin, did you have your step up in Ynys Fawr?
Yeah, our first one, 11, 12, 13, however many years ago, was in Ynys Fawr. And to be fair, I can't remember the food specifically from that event. I was a little bit stressed, but like I absolutely remember like the everybody that was there looking after us and the thrones that you're sitting on. I remember being absolutely blown away about how huge they were.
They're so comfy as well.
Yeah, they are pretty comfy, but they're massive. Like you can't see from the video, but they're like at least 2 meters tall. It's crazy.
Yeah,
they're copies of those from Winchester Cathedral.
Right.
They're 12th century design. Except that these are made out of Tasmanian blackwood.
I'm 6'2", 185.
So maybe not quite 2 meters, but still huge.
Yeah.
Bigger than me.
They're like 170 centimeters or something like that. Like they're pretty big. Hang on,
and as I said, they're exact copies of those from Winchester Cathedral. They collapsed. Wow. We're very happy with them.
Yeah, and it's all good.
Particularly seeing I got the university to pay for them as stage props for the investiture.
Yeah.
Nice.
Did you get a deal on the coronets as well?
Yes, I did. I was treasurer of the Society's Council at the time, but it was all done legally, and voted on and approved.
Yeah. Good to know.
I remember approving the designs for the coronets, like when we were, there was like a meeting about the coronets and stuff, and like the design for them was amazing. Like I love those coronets.
The old coronets are totally period.
These the big brassy ones, like the huge ones.
Yeah. So they're like this kind of.
Yeah, they're huge.
I nearly sat on mine because I'd take it off to fight, and I put it on the throne on the pillow, like what, and Miriam would sit there, and then one day I was back, I was really tired, and I went to sit on it, and I think it was Miriam just managed to like get out of the way, otherwise I would have been like 6-pronged.
when we went as B&B to America, to West Kingdom, this was the event that John of Skye won, became king. We were wandering around the West Crown with the coronets on, and of course nobody had seen these coronets before, and so it was, "Good morning, Your Majesty." "No." "Your Grace." "No." God knows what kingdom they thought we're from.
I was the king of Caid at a Rowaney festival one year. One of our friends was talking to another lady, and they're like, "Oh, how do you know the king and queen of Caid?" And I'm like, because they knew that they were at the festival, but they didn't know what they looked like or what their coronets would look like. And I'm like, "What? I don't know them." I'm like, "Oh, you mean Gershom Miriam? Like they're the Baroness of Ynys Fawr." And yeah, quite a few times at like the market. Just walking through, I'd get, "Oh, Your Majesty," like, because everyone else's coronets, Barony ones, are generally like pretty low in silver, whereas we had these, giant jewelers' brass sort of things. Yeah,
but as I said, well, at one stage they were certainly the most period coronets in Lockhart.
So we had the best coronets, the best thrones, the best hammer.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah. All right. Back to this hammer. I need to hear about the hammer. So recently at Rowaney Festival, Declan had his admittance to the Order of the Pelican, and we were talking about his ceremony advance. He's like, "I want to swear on the Hammer of State," and we're like, "What's the Hammer of State? Please tell me the story of the Hammer of State."
The Hammer of State was made by Master Snorri. It's made from the rock of Kunyanyi. Kunyanyi is, of course, for the North Islanders, Mount Wellington, and it's dolomite. It's the founder. Let's put it this way: if you get hit by the Hammer of State, you stay down.
Yeah, it's really heavy as well.
It is a massive weapon, which is usable two-handed as a weapon. So, okay,
it's like a short maul. It's like yeah,
and it would go through plate without any problem.
Yeah, zombie apocalypse. I'm going to Baron David's house to get the hammer if he's not using it.
I mean, when Christian and Susan came out for us to become B&B, they were blown away because, of course, we had. Have you seen our glaives? We've got these. Basically, they are real glaives. They're massive, great pole weapons. We've got those, and we've got the Hammer of State.
There's a baronial guard. They were really heavy to maneuver around.
And we've got these. Look, the further away you are from. I'm trying to avoid being too much of a sociologist here.
If we were actually
we're in the periphery, right? If you're in the core, these things matter less. When you're on the periphery, the symbols matter far more in order to continue the traditions and keep the continuity.
Imagine how big they would be if we were actually in Antarctica. Like that's a whole nother 42 degrees south. Like we would have like these massive, you'd need like struts to hold up the things.
Ignoring you on this.
The thrones would be sort of like, they'd be up on diets and stuff like that.
We'll have baronial ski dogs.
Yeah. Trying dogs.
Well, we do have access to them. There's 3 in our son's house.
That would be great for all the Vikings who want to just wear all their like thick woolen coats.
Well, that's one of the other benefits of Ynys Fawr is that people from everywhere else get to come down here and finally get to wear all of their massive, heavy cloaks. And we get a lot of people from like really far north as well, and they love it because they can just like, "Oh my god, I can wear like 3 cloaks.
I can wear Tudor.
I can wear wool." We had our brass monkey war that we used to have each winter, and it was always like really cold, obviously. But I remember one year that we had a king and queen come down from the west, and everyone was excited to get rugged up.
When the army came down,
might have been, yeah. But it was like 25 degrees in the middle of winter. It was like the hottest day we've ever had. And and then on the flip side, for the in November for the crown that we had a year and a half ago. So 3 weeks from summer, it snowed at sea level, like at the beach, enough to make a snowman on the day after the event closed. So we had a bunch of people that we took up to the mountain, and because the mountain's like a 15-minute drive from the middle of the city, and played around in snow, and they got to see snow for the first time. But yeah, 3 weeks from summer. So you know, you get both worlds.
So basically, you're saying if anyone's coming down to visit for the 30th party,
Yeah.
to bring warm clothes is what I'm hearing.
No, layers.
Lots of layers and sun cream.
The key to this state is layers,
because you'll be layering and unlayering throughout the day constantly, and the sun is super sharp down here. Like it's way worse. I as a kid I lived in like Darwin and Mount Isa in the desert, but here the sun is like really sharp, like even in winter. It can be pretty harsh. So yeah, lots of layers, lots of sun cream.
Yeah, I mean,
bring an umbrella, a sun hat.
If we
just bring everything.
That event we had in Launceston, in Perth rather, a few months ago, I think I had 4 layers on.
Yeah, it was -2 when we got out at the end of the night. It was pretty cold. So it was already frost on the cars at like 10 o'clock.
I had my silks and everything, but then I had 2 layers of silk. Then I had cotton, then I had wool, and then over that sometimes I had my cloak.
So what's the plan? What's the big plan for the 30th event? Like, how are you going to capture 30 years as a barony in the event?
I have to say that I have had very little to do with it, except I know I'm teaching. Gee, that's unusual. And so I'll be doing some teaching on poetry, and I'll be doing some world history stuff. The start of my world history lecture, which I haven't done for ages.
I know I'm on the planning group, but I'm only very ancillary. Tully probably knows more about the stuff. Just feed me some lines and I'll maybe look good.
Yeah, we're introducing lots of different facets of the barony into the event, but I know that Baroness Drewstick has a lot of little elements that she's weaving into it that I won't spoil for people, but there's lots of little things that will jog people's memories or bring back some stories from the past and stuff like that. So but yeah, focusing on the camaraderie and friendship, I think, really.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward.
Awesome. Can you film some of it so that those of us who can't come can watch it back later?
Yeah, we should be able to. Yeah, that
would be awesome. It sounds like something that lots of people are going to want to have a look at, even if they can't travel down for it.
Yeah. There's a lot of Ynys Fawrians spread around everywhere.
Yes,
absolutely. That's what I was going to say. It's been mentioned a couple of times tonight that there's so many people that have either come from Ynys Fawr and moved out or gone and come back, and you don't really realize who they all are. But like, I think that community and that culture that has been built over the years has like been such a supportive environment for people to go and spread their wings and share all of their skills and love around the rest of Buckets. It's pretty cool. We're getting close to the end of things tonight, unfortunately. I'm sure there's a lot that we could still go through. But one of our regular end of interview questions is, what is your favourite no shit there I was story? If you can think of one that's appropriate to share with all of the kingdom.
Oh, okay. Remember I mentioned being there when John of Skye was King of the West. Well, I wasn't fully aware of all the customs of the Kingdom of the West, and I'd been doing the lists up to that stage, and then I started doing marshalling, and I was marshalling in the one at the area that was closest to the crown. And I wasn't aware that normally it's custom for the dukes to marshal the crown final. Nobody dared take me away from the marshalling the crown final. So I got to marshal when John of Skye won, and just as a lowly baron.
That's pretty cool.
But nobody had the heart to say you can't do it anymore. Because, of course, John of Skye is from Ynys Fawr.
And my uncle, because it's a small world.
And your uncle. Yes, and your uncle. This is Ynys Fawr, remember?
Yeah.
Actually, one of the best events we've had was at your grandparents' hotel when we did the Bardic Collegium. That was huge fun, that. Martin the juggler taught us all to juggle. I'm not sure if I can still do it with silk scarves. Silk scarves are how you learn how to juggle, trust me. Yes, and we got belly dancing and all sorts of things.
Oh, yeah.
And belly dancing classes.
Your mum was a great belly dancer.
Yeah. Yes.
So my notion there, I'll give you a quick one and then a slightly like a better version. But so that my quick one is an actual no shit. There I was fighting King Benjamin when he came down to visit. I fought Florentine and he was also fighting Florentine, and we fought and we got like 4 or 5 double kills, as is often the case when you have like 4 swords. But eventually he beat me because he was a knight and I'm not. So at the end we were completely exhausted. We give each other a big hug on the 20 field and let our swords dangle from our lanyards. But they each twined around each other's back. And so when we went to so we're like faceplate to faceplate. And then we go to like, yeah, oh, thanks, good job. And then we go to like, and then we can't move. And then so we're stuck there, like faceplate to faceplate, whilst like a bunch of people had to come out and like untwist each of our swords because they like knotted up behind each other's back. And so we're just sort of like staring at each other for like 5 minutes trying to catch our breath. But my biggest no shit there was we had the big event that we had at was it like a principality event at the what was that place at like Harrower? It was a big
Worksworth.
Yeah, Worksworth. It was a big principality event I think fighting to pick the next prince and princess and also install them like all in one.
It's when Chaos won.
Yeah, and so we decided that we'd have like a really big subtlety, as Ynys Fawr often does. And someone had read about like getting like a peacock, like cooking a whole peacock, but then cooking it in that dough that they used to, like a salt dough, and then painting that like a peacock and sticking all the feathers back in like a peacock. And so when it comes out, it looks like a giant peacock, but it's being cooked on the inside. So we didn't want to kill a peacock. We were like, oh, how about a swan? That'll look cool, and we could have like a goose or something inside it. And so one of the guys in our group was a hunter, and we told him sort of what we were looking for, and he was like, oh yeah, no, that's really cool. I'll get a bird and we'll cook it up.
You can, under some circumstances, take black swans, by the way.
So he went out to the Derwent River, which is the river that splits the city in half, shot a swan. We thought he was going to get a goose and make it just look like a swan. So yeah, he straight up killed a swan, sent his dog out to the river to like retrieve it, cooked it up, put it in the salt thing, painted it up to look like a white swan. And so it was sitting up on the high table, and I think you were still barren about it, because I think it was about maybe the year before we stepped up. But it was up on the high table and we went to taste it. I think we might have been about to step up or something. But so we were like, oh, well, let's actually...
Yeah, you were Lord and Lady of Ynys Fawr.
Yeah, we were their infancies. And so we were up on high table and we're like, oh, well, we'll try the goose. I bet it's really moist. We tried it and it was revolting and like really greasy and like just really like weird and gross. And we're like...
It tastes like mussels, right?
Yeah, like not mussels, but like fishy mussels. Like, so we asked the person that got it, like, why does it taste weird? Is it because of the salt? Like, where'd you get the goose from? And he's like, what goose? And I'm like, where'd you get it from? And he's like, oh, I just got a swan from the... And we're like, you killed a swan? And we thought they were endangered. Like, I'm pretty sure they're endangered.
There are some circumstances where it's legal to take.
Pretty sure that wasn't one of them. But it's been like, what?
We're hoping it is.
27 years, so it should be fine. But whenever we have like one of those team building things, like at work, where it's like, 2 truths and a lie, I always say like, oh, I've gone skydiving, I've fought a woman, and I've eaten swan. And no one ever believes that like I could like punch a woman or anything like that. And no one ever thinks that you did the swan.
The corollary of this is that when the swan was served, our son was about 8 years old, and he had some of the swan. And then several events later, someone from the North Island thought they'd be a smart aleck and give Brendan some mussels. And so they gave Brendan some mussels, because they're acquired taste mussels. And what do you think of them? He thought for a moment. They taste a bit like swan.
I since found out that people do eat them. Like I went to a Pakistani.
I quite
friend.
liked it actually,
It was weird.
but I like mussels.
But apparently, what you're supposed to do is capture the swan and then feed it on grains to like flush out all the bottom feeding muck that it eats for a while.
Which is why it tastes like mussels.
And then they taste much nicer, but I don't think we'll ever test that.
But yes, Brendan's. Yeah, it tastes a bit like swan. You should have seen the expression on the person's face.
Well, I love that you've wrapped tonight's interview up about Ynys Fawr, relating it back to food and subtleties and amazing feasts. It's so good. So before we head off, is there anything else that you guys would like to add or to throw out there as final words?
I feel like now would normally be the bit where we plug our event, but come down and watch from the outside, I guess.
Yeah. All the feast seats are gone.
If you missed out, come to our next big event.
We do. Yeah, we love having visitors. You won't ever get a feast that's bad food. You'll
unless you don't like swan.
Yeah.
You didn't have to eat the swan, right? We like our cooking.
We've had quail. We had a feast where we had during our reign, and the story was that a pig had eaten chickens and got on a rampage, and so we had to kill it. And so it came out on like it was a whole roast pig that had been cooked in a bakery oven, and it was on a door like that had been pulled apart with a thing. And so this huge pig was then brought out roasted, and then we tried a bit, and I said, oh, it tasted a bit weird. Like you said, it ate chicken, and then so we pulled the pig open like over, and then inside was stuffed with chickens, which was stuffed with eggs. Had an apple in its mouth as well. It tasted so good. Yeah,
that's cool. Oh, sounds yum.
I often get to sing the Boar's Head Carol.
So yeah, come on down, eat well,
get entertained,
be part of the family.
Well, we're very big on entertainment at feasts as well. Strangely, it may reflect something to do with the founder.
Oh, that's excellent. Liadan, is there anything else you'd like to add before we head off?
No, this has been a really good chat, and yeah, thanks so much for your time and being part of it. And I hope everyone has an amazing time at the Ynys Fawr 30th anniversary in a few weeks' time.
We've got a new chronicler who, because the chronicler job doesn't really have much to do nowadays. So I was the chronicler briefly. So I created a new version of it where it's the effectively the social media content person. And so the new chronicler that we have now, her role is just to like add stuff to our social media and make it look a bit more alive. So there'll be lots of nice pictures and we'll see if we can get some videos of the happenings as well.
Well, that's very exciting. I look forward to seeing them. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I've learnt a lot, and now I'm very hungry, so I'm going to go have some dinner after all this talk of swans and pigs and chicken. So thank you so much. It was lovely having you on. Hopefully we'll be popping up every now and then with some other interviews from Crown Between Two Roses. There's nothing just lined up yet, but keep your eyes open. I'm sure there'll be something soon enough. So thanks everyone, and have a great time. If you have any more questions, you can always post them onto the video or through the Facebook page. So see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.